Hey, you're listening to iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 1017. I'm Josh Flanagan, my normal co-host. He was walking along the shore and he was pressed into naval service. It turns out. Yeah. Well, is that the same thing?
Yeah. I don't know if it's specific for the Navy, but it's
the Navy as the press gang. They'll impress you into service. War of 1812 was pretty much caused by it. Anyway, no one needs that right now. Dr. Ryan Haupt is with us today.
I'm here. I'm incensed. I'm incensed, Josh.
You look a little like a sailor. You've got a slight nautical theme going on.
That actually was one of my pieces of news. It's new hoodie day over here at the Haupt household. This is a new hoodie. I'm very excited about it.
Nice.
I came back to DC from West Virginia. I came back to DC from West Virginia earlier this week. It was 88 degrees. 88 degrees. You know what it did today? Goddamn snowed. Snowed on me, Josh. In the same spot that it was 88 degrees 2 days ago.
Hey, Ryan, you may know that I'm somewhat of a skier, right? And you may know that I broke my shoulder blade in the middle of the most snow we've ever seen, and I'm able to go again now, and the snow's gone.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what people want to hear about. Is
so you're incensed too. You're also incensed.
I'm incredibly incensed. This is old sweatshirt day. This is the Old Navy. I got it for $15, and it doesn't quite fit on the lower half of me.
Don't talk about the Old Navy around Conor.
Yeah.
He'll get upset as he's been pressed into service.
You know what? The good news, he's not allowed to complain or they whip him. So, or you don't want to be keel-hauled. There was a time where I just knew the word keel-haul, but now I know what keel-hauling is, and it's quite awful.
No, it's horrifying. Horrifying.
It's terrible. You think waterboarding's bad? Try getting keel-hauled.
Try getting barnacle boarded.
Now, Ryan and I have a problem without Conor being here, and I'm going to try to affect change and be the person who gets us moving on. We are a couple of minutes in already. We haven't even told you what the show is. So this is the one where we talk about the comic books that came out this week. We've been doing this for 21 years. Ryan hasn't, but it's longer than I want to know. Every week, one of us gets a chance to pick the best book they read that week. We call that the pick of the week. And then we'll talk about that book. We talk about the other comics we read. There's a patron pick. There's listener mail. It's a good time. There will be spoilers for the comics. So if that's something you're worried about, then we provide show notes, which are really more of an approximation of time at this point, but the intervals are the same. So you can do the math on that. Ryan is normally, when he is the guest, he does have the pick, and this week is no different.
You know, you say it's an approximation of time, but depending on your distance from a gravitational singularity, it's all an approximation, Josh, of time. You know that. You know that. The pick of the week this week was Transformers issue number 30. Story by Robert Kirkman, art by Dan Mora, colors by Mike Spicer, letters by Russ Wooten, published by Image Comics / Skybound Entertainment. This is Dan Mora's final issue with us. And I've been enjoying the Transformers book, and I really felt the tonal shift from Daniel Warren Johnson to Robert Kirkman, as accompanied by Dan Mora's art. I think both have been great, but I think the more classic style of Dan Mora's art relative to Daniel Warren Johnson or Jorge Corona has worked a little better for me. I don't think it's a lateral
really
move. It's not like, I don't think it's. Yes, I do. Because I'm not a big wrestling guy, so like the wrestling aesthetic from the Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona art, I thought was neat. It was a cool way to depict the characters, but it's never how they move or act in my mind. So it just, going back to a little bit more like what the cartoon looked like, worked really well for me. And then obviously Dan Mora is a singular talent. In this issue, we're kind of wrapping up a couple of threads, but really the main thing that happened and the main thing that made it pick of the week is that Optimus gives up his Prime status. And I was not ready for the emotional gut punch. The last time I was on the show, it was the G.I. Joe issue where Duke is interrogating a robot, and Duke just hates robots, and then he starts asking the robot about Optimus Prime, and the way that the Autobot talks about Optimus Prime, I was like, oh, I think Optimus is up there with like Superman and like Luke Skywalker in terms of like, he's like one of the greats of like exemplary heroism, unimpeachable record, like always does the right thing, always knows what to say to motivate the troops, always knows what to say in the quieter moments to comfort the person who needs it. And so for him to like willingly say, okay, we'll let the Matrix decide. You can, it's what's the woman's name that he gives up?
Alita.
Alita, the matrix of leadership. He said, let the matrix decide. And the matrix chooses her and she becomes the new Prime. And he goes back to just being Optimus. And the Autobots, and then Alita Prime goes back to Cybertron, and Optimus has got to lead the Autobots still on Earth as not a Prime. And I was like, ooh, I can't wait to see where that goes next. That's really intriguing. Yeah, what did you think, Josh?
You bring up some interesting issues, and I'll get to it. Is that, I don't tend to think of Optimus in those lofty circles, but probably just because in my mind it's like a afternoon cartoon show, and it's difficult to get to Superman from there. And I know that is splitting nerd hairs at an egregious pace. But I do think that there is a heroic morality to Optimus Prime that has sort of stuck with that character through the years. What's interesting is that pretty much there's only one kind of Optimus Prime. Like, there's the TV show, and then there was the movie or whatever. It's the same voice. He's always got the same characterization, so it's been very consistent through the whole thing. And it really is like, the ultimate, team leader, the ultimate dad. Like, he's always going to choose the right thing, and he's going to be using compassion to do it. And that is valuable.
There's a way that all the other characters have reverence for him. That is, to me, that's where it kind of attains. Like, in his universe, like in the terms of the Superman comparison, he's the one that everyone knows they can trust. And like the show that I plugged into the most growing up, both because of my age and because of my interest, was the Beast Wars show, which is like a sequel series that takes place, centuries after the War of the Autobots and the Decepticons, but still has part of it taking place on Earth. And the main character there is Optimus Primal, the Gorilla Man, and he's self-styled after Optimus Prime. Like, the entire series, he's trying to live up to the legacy of Optimus Prime. And so, like, to have, an entire series where the character that everyone reveres never shows up, but it has an outsized impact on how every good guy tries to be. Like, I think that speaks to something intrinsic about the character, and to see him willingly give up part of his both literal power, but also his figurative power as the leader of this group. He's still the leader, but he's not the Prime, and the Prime is no longer in the picture. I was like, that's a really interesting choice for how to take the book forward into a place that I've not seen before.
And I think that that's a good thing, because I do think that under the Kirkman-Mora regime, it's gotten a little bland for me. In that I don't feel like a lot of things have happened. There was a lot of discussion. There's stuff that's interesting, the Thundercracker being part of it. But like, in terms of story moving forward, I don't know that a lot has happened. I feel like Megatron and Decepticons have shown up because they were somewhere, and then they fought, and then they left, and some stuff's happening back on, it's almost like resetting everything in a way to be like, these are who the characters that are now under my watch. I am not the biggest fan of Dan Mora on this book. I don't know. I feel like it hasn't been his forte. I wouldn't characterize the previous artists as, like the central feature being a wrestling thing. I didn't see it that way. I saw it as a way of making everybody seem, even though the robots, to be a little more organic. As a result, I was almost losing track of who was who in the last couple of Transformers with Dan Mora, because I feel like his action scenes were not as clear. It was a little more like watching one of the Transformers movies, where you're just close in on things a lot, and I didn't quite have a hold on who people were outside of the main few. It's not bad. I'm not really criticizing it. I just really enjoyed the style. I think, and I just enjoy the contrast of the other art, which was so loose and organic and sketchy, all for lack of better terms. But it was just sort of antithetical to the, robots, the hard edge, straight line robots.
Yeah, Dan Mora's robots are a lot blockier.
And I don't think you really necessarily want to make these characters too cartoony, but for me, that really worked. I don't know, it was like this edge of indie comics in there that I thought gave it a little bit of grit that I enjoyed. That said, I think this was a really good issue because all of the things that happened in it were unexpected. I also really didn't like the fact that basically Alita has been like rebelling against him, and I thought we're gonna have some like big fight. And so when she's, he's like, no, we're gonna fight this out. And it's funny because he's like, that's actually not the rule, like, that's not, I'm not doing that. And I was like, good, that's barbaric. That's a Decepticon thing. But we took the turn on that. He gave her the choice. Then you're like, well, this thing's definitely going to choose Optimus because he's not. Okay. So the Matrix thinks that you got to take it back to, Cybertron. I would have liked a little more clarity. Like I would have liked to see the Autobots be like, I'm going back, I'm staying. At the end you just sort of get a cutaway to who was left, and I was like, I don't really feel like I understand. And I think that conversation would have been interesting. And like the certain people, are like, yeah, I'm going because I didn't want to be here. And then the certain people who have recriminations or I don't know. I think there's really interesting stuff that could have happened there. At the same time, I know why you wouldn't do that. The number of Transformers is endless. It's funny because when you have or don't have the Matrix, you get you change. Like their bodies change. And so like they came back in and I just hadn't realized it happened. I was just like, why is he drawing him like this on this page? And I went, oh, and like she's all hot rodded. By the way, let's give it up for I think the most amount of sexy robot. Starting with the cover that we've had in this. I was like, oh, we're doing like the curvy robot butt. Okay, that's fine. That's weird, but okay. I did enjoy it because there have been other Transformers issues recently. I feel like the last one especially, I was like, I don't know, man. I'm not holding the thread in the same way that I had. Because my instinct was that I felt like, and I still did feel like this in a little bit, is that Kirkman is almost too beholden to the source material. I was like, you're just right. Like the dialogue in here is like straight out of the cartoon.
Yep.
And I that's valid, and I understand why you do that. I didn't really want that so much. So part adjustment. I just really liked what was happening before. So
for me, I think I don't claim to have any special insight into Kirkman or his process, but having read The Walking Dead Deluxe, where he does he shows his 1-page handwritten issue breakdown for every issue, and then does a 1-page essay explaining his thoughts on the breakdown and the changes that were made from breakdown to script to final comic. And so like I feel like I'm starting more so than with other creators. I'm starting to get like Kirkman X-ray vision. Like I can almost see through. Like when you mentioned the whole like, well, I would have loved to have seen a scene where, and I'm thinking to myself like, I wonder if it was scrawled on the 1-pager and then scratched out for say to make room for something else. Like because I can kind of see more and more how Kirkman.
There was a little of that.
But it's just interesting, like to read a comic without having that level of insight and to sort of try to reverse engineer. Okay, why is Kirk like? Because I now know that Kirkman does think about things as carefully as like what's this page turn going to reveal to keep the readers interested.
100%.
So trying to like tease that out by just reading the comic, knowing I'm not going to get the cheat sheet at the end, was a fun mental exercise for me as well.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like it was a really good issue, and you making it pick of the week, like it wasn't gonna be my pick of the week or whatever. But when I saw that was I was okay, I totally get that because, and again, like the thing that I want out of all of these is to be surprised, but then also stay within the paradigm of the thing, and that's tricky. That's hard.
We both had pretty short stacks this week, and the theme I thought from reading comics, my theme this week was. I read a lot of comics that had kind of a slow ramp up. So like I would start the issue being like, oh man, like I would read every issue being like, well, this is definitely going to be the pick. And then by the end of the issue, I was like, oh, there was actually a lot I really enjoyed in that. And so there's only one book this week that we're going to talk about later where on page 1, I was like, holy crap, I did not know what I was turning the page on to start reading. And I need to figure this out and figure out if I like it or not. And so we'll talk about that in a bit.
All right. Well, I'm excited to hear when we get to that. But for right now, Action Comics 1096, Mark Waid, Skylar Partridge, Ivan Placentia, and Steve Wands on letters. This was your ad. So what's the take?
I've just been loving the Mark Waid Superboy storyline. He's been keeping us in the world of young Clark Kent for a while, and I know Mark Waid has done young Superman stories before. Birthright, I think, being probably the most famous amongst them. But it still feels like a modern comic with modern storytelling. It doesn't feel too Silver Agey in its zaniness, but certainly incorporates plenty of zany Silver Age concepts. An artifact in the Museum of Superman that's sending out a mysterious signal, and then in this issue, this issue, I really liked the beginning of it, and I thought it kind of, by the end, I was like, okay, like I see what Mark Waid is kind of setting up here, but the idea that cause and effect get broken, and I noticed it right from the start, because I mean the issue is literally called Effect and Cause, and I was like, oh, that's weird, because you wouldn't usually write it that way, because cause, effects follow causes, not in front of. And to see that the way that they kind of tried to make that work in comic book storytelling, where there is no motion, but there is change panel to panel. And so I thought they didn't always work, but it was a really interesting experiment in sequential storytelling to have the sequences happen in the wrong order, or again, the reverse order.
I found that to be very tricky. It was like kind of difficult to wrap my head around. And so in that way, I think for some of it, like I wasn't sure if it wasn't being done well, or I wasn't getting it. And I ultimately, I don't think that's the point, and I don't know that it matters that much, but there was definitely, I don't know, it was confusing, but not rewarding in a way, to a certain extent, like that. Like when it's one of those things where you try to work it out. Well, wait, why would this affect if this hasn't happened? So how does that even work? And then I got into like, well, maybe this is what's always happening. We don't know it, but our brain's just putting it together. Like, I don't know. It could be all sorts of things. There was a couple of things I thought about as I was reading this that are not criticisms necessarily, but I did think, like when I started it, I was like, wait, which Superboy is this? No, okay, no, this isn't John Kent. This is Clark, because there's just so many Supermans in different versions running around right now, and there's like 3 or 4 Superboys right now, and so I had to go, right, that's Action Comics, Mark Waid, he's doing this, and then I started to think about the fact that it's being narrated by Clark, and I was trying to figure out if it's a contemporaneous Clark or it's a Clark looking back. I don't think it's a Clark looking back, because the dialogue isn't right. It doesn't sound like him, so I guess this would be his contemporaneous thoughts written after or soon after, because it doesn't sound, I mean, then again, Clark's a writer, so maybe when he writes different, all sorts of things, but like I couldn't see the adult Superman that we know like talking like this. Again, it is not an issue. I just found myself kind of stuck on it. Like I was like,
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, like who's telling this story and when. I mean, I know who, but like when's he telling this story? And then also, I just also thought that I was like, well, the dialogue of his narration is contemporary, so it's not like it's from 20 or 30 years ago. And then I was like, well, when is this taking place? But it kind of doesn't matter.
It just says Smallville many years ago. That's all we ever get.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's been the opening title card for the time and the place for many issues now.
And that's the right call, 100%. In terms of confusing, here's the first one. They're eating the ice cream, but it's not melting and it's not going away. And I was like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with cause and effect. That means that the ice cream's like
too cold.
It can't be. No, it means that it can't be stuck in time, because it's not. You're licking it, so if it's stuck, then you're not getting any of that flavor or anything from it. You can't eat it and have it be the same. That doesn't.
I think picking a melting object, or an object that typically melts, like it goes away even if you don't eat it, was the wrong choice for the first example.
Yeah. I thought that I feel like there would be a better choice there. Like it was like, oh, this is odd, but also the fact that nobody was bothered to buy that. They went, oh, that's great. And it's like, no, that's not supposed to happen. That's bad. Like, and
but they were at like the world, the World of Tomorrow, the Expo Tomorrow. So like
that was the other thing that made me wonder about what time frame they were in, because I was like, well, when was the last time there was a World Expo? The 60s, 60. There was the one in New York in the 60s. Was there? I don't know of another one after that.
Wasn't there one? When was the one in Knoxville, Tennessee?
I don't know.
There's like this weird, like domed tower in Knoxville, Tennessee, that I think is from a World's Fair Expo, and like might even be as late as the 80s.
Yeah, I don't know of any that happened after the 60s one in.
We know you famously will not go south of the Mason-Dixon line, so you're.
Well, I mean, savages all. No, it's not true at all. And then finally, you have this sort of ending that I don't understand, where we have Booster Gold and Mary Marvel, or whatever she's called now, and John Jones show up, and there's a problem. All right, these guys are showing up, and then the bad guy comes through, and it's some sort of mechabot. Do you know who the mechabot is?
I don't know who the mechabot is.
Okay, me neither. But they're very scared of this robot with radiator hands and shoulders. It looks like he'll heat you up slightly.
Yeah, reason to be afraid. For Martian Manhunter in particular. That could be his greatest foe.
You're right. I'm going to just go ahead and play Conor here and just say there's no reason to change John Jones's outfit. This, like give him that big cape and his little cross chest piece. Just let him be that. Just let him be that.
But is John Jones really wearing an outfit, or is that just his body being made to look like clothes and he's actually always naked?
Yeah.
And the cape is just like a flesh flap.
I may just want the cape. As long as he has a big blue cape, I'd probably be happy. But I don't like not having that.
I agree with you.
By the way, we haven't done this a lot, but I'd like to officially ban my first term from this show, and it is flesh flap. I no longer want to hear the two words flesh flap used in concert on this program ever. I have put in the paperwork to Carol as we speak. So
this is technically is this an iFangrumble, or is it just a ban? Just an outright ban?
I think it's an hour. I think I can do that. I think I don't use my power a lot, but I think in this context, I can dictate to you that we're not going to do that. What we are going to do, though, is take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back from wherever it was that we went, which means the next thing we are going to talk about here is a book that, should it be? I don't know. Should it be? Usagi Yojimbo, Kaitō, 84, number 1. This is Usagi Yojimbo book that is not created in any way other than conceptually, not even that, by Stan Sakai, but in fact, Zach Rosenberg on story and Jared Cullum on art and letters is also out from Dark Horse, though. It's obvious done with Stan's blessing and feedback, I believe.
So I thought this was going to be like when we had the Star Wars retelling, Space Usagi, that was a recolored reprint from a previous era of Usagi. So this was the book where when I turned the page, I was like, oh, that's like interesting cover dress for Usagi. It doesn't usually look like that. And then I turned the page and saw the first opening image and was like, what the hell am I reading? And like you had some, I mean, I don't get the chance to talk about it as much, but like I'm Usagi diehard as well. I've been reading Usagi for probably 20 years now, since working in the comic shop back in the day. So it's to see something not from the pen of Sakai himself was jarring.
So there is a part of me. It's very like I don't know if this is okay. From a conceptual standpoint, like I don't really ever want to see Usagi spin-offs not by Stan Sakai. Like it just feels like one of the best things about the book is the purity of it. Now I know that he's appeared in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics that weren't written or drawn by him, and the cartoon. Obviously, the first time I ever heard of Usagi Yojimbo was a Turtles toy. That's the first thing I ever saw of it, and all that's fine or whatever. So keeping my initial reservations in check, I will talk about the merit of this thing, and I think there's a lot of good things about this.
Yes.
But basically, what we have here is a story of Miyamoto Usagi's descendant. I think they say, well, it's a long ways because Usagi Yojimbo would be in the 1700s, and this is in 1984. So it's his distant descendant in 1984
in Osaka.
In Osaka. And he's got a lot of the characteristics, including the exact visual visage.
I thought that was a scar. So did he somehow get the exact same scar that his ancestor got?
I don't know. I don't know if it's
not.
A scar.
It's not a raised bunny eyebrow. I'm pretty sure it's a scar.
Yeah, but he's got it too.
I know.
And he's got it. He's got his ears in the top knot.
Which, I know emotional scars are genetic, but I didn't think physical scars were.
Yeah. And I mean, basically, this is Usagi Yojimbo out in the world. He's a badass.
He's a street tough.
Yeah,
he's a classic Tom Caters 1980s street tough.
But he's a good guy. He believes in justice and helping people and I got to fix this now because it's the right thing to do.
Well, reading this made me think carefully about, and we've been through this, like, I think one of the reasons we have trepidation is we've been through this before, where there's a beloved property with a singular creator, Star Wars, and it gets taken away or taken a field from that. And now we're at a point where, like, there's a Star Wars movie coming out in a couple of months. I don't care. I never could have believed if you tell 10-year-old Ryan a new Star Wars movie is going to be coming out and you'll have no plans to go see it. So there's always fear of oversaturating a good thing with new stuff that is too far afield from the original vision. So what this made me think about while I was reading this is, what are the essential elements of a Usagi story that need to be kept sort of not necessarily sacrosanct in that you can't do anything different with them, but like what makes it feel like you're still in that world, still a part of that legacy and that in that world that Stan Sakai so richly developed for the Middle Ages, now transported into the 1980s. And I think so far this is hitting most of the right notes that I need from an Usagi story. Mostly it's got a big scene about food. That was one that
if you've never read Usagi Yojimbo, you have no concept of how big a part food plays in that. It's like the Hobbits.
Yeah.
Like every time the Hobbits eat something, it is described in massive detail in Lord of the Rings, and it is constant. And it's not that much detail, but like the Wandering Ronin is constantly on the search for food, and because it's the 18th century, and he has no money.
If you watched The Hedge Knight, the new HBO show, it's the same, like a Ronin Hedge Knight. Like, it's the same thing. They haven't had a good meal in a while. Like,
and so it's always about that. And then this had a lot of that food in it. But I think what we have here is, and I will just say it, I think this was great. It shouldn't have been. It towed a very specific line and did a lot of things really well to make it very enjoyable, where a lot of other approaches to this would have fallen flat. One thing is they didn't try to make it look like or even necessarily read like a Stan Sakai book. Stan Sakai books are extremely predictable. Like there's a style to them, a style of pacing and storytelling and framing and all that stuff that is extremely consistent, which would be boring if it wasn't so goddamn satisfying. And I cannot explain to you why. This I think
we're going to have to try to explain it when we get to the letter segment, because it sort of ties into what the letters question is about.
Well, but this is a much more contemporary feel in the way that the art's beautiful. Like, it's great. If this was any other book, I'd be like, this artist is fantastic. Jared Cullum.
You could easily see this being the first issue of a new Image series, where it's like, okay, it's 1980s Japan, but they're all animals. Like,
100%.
And it would work. I think it would work perfectly well, and
it stands on its own fully.
But I also don't think it's gonna. I think it would be an issue that we might read number one of, we would forget about it. It wouldn't have. I'm not saying it was forgetful anyway, but just like, I think it is riding the coattails of Usagi Yojimbo, and I think that's going to give it some relevance that it wouldn't have gotten as a standalone series that wasn't.
I think that's right.
Into that world.
I think there's a little stickiness. There's a little magnetism that is like, all right, I'm willing to stick for this more, because it wasn't a perfect issue. Like, I'm not like, oh, this was great, but it was visually really interesting. It is compelling in time and place. The character is compelling. There is a little push given by its connection, the fact that it is approved by Stan Sakai, the fact that but I think they did a really great job at like doing their own story. And it's tricky too, because like this takes place in Japan in 1984. That has to be a very tough thing to try to emulate for two people who are, Westerners at the least. You know what I mean? Like, that's hard. And I think that it was done pretty well. I think the coloring is great. I think it was a really good choice to not give us modern day equivalents of all of the characters. I think the female character is named after Usagi's girl. There's Katsuni and Kyoko. Those are characters. Okay, I'm almost wrong. Basically, what I'm saying is they didn't have Jen in here so far, and I'm glad they don't, because I don't want a lot of modern analogs. Mariko is like one of his love interests. I think
Yes,
she
there you
shows
go.
up in here too. I don't know the equivalent of the kid. Is the kid the current little bunny who's running around with Usagi in the current
I
issues?
believe so, but it was a little unclear. I had to go back and like read that scene again. And
Yeah, I just took him as some kid that he's with who wants to eat, because he didn't act like that other guy. Because I'm sorry, I don't know his name. But
I think that's Kyuki. So you're thinking.
okay, well, either way, he's super into being like, but this isn't what a samurai does. And Usagi's, well, we're flexible with what that is. This is a different character, if nothing else. When he gets kidnapped and the big Black Sat, this is a lot like Black Sat, actually. Looks a lot like Black Sat. I don't know if it's a villain, but the little mole rat or whatever he is who's trying to feed the Momo. Just a really interesting character that I didn't expect to see. The cars in this are
I think that is
amazing.
a raccoon dog, which is a Japanese carnivore.
Oh, okay. Like
Look up-
Tanuki.
It's
different.
Yeah, it's a very it's one of the like most basal, as in like most early types of dog-like creatures.
Oh, okay.
Still alive today is a raccoon dog.
Yep. Anyway, so the cars in this are, every time I see a car in here, it's like it's great. I liked it.
I liked it a lot too, and I think the way the character moves is very different than Usagi, just because I think it's like his clothes. Like he's not wearing a robe, he's not wearing the sandals, he's not wearing the hat. And so at the end they have like some. He's
not wearing a sword.
That was the thing. At the end they have like some of the concept art, and they have both Kaitō and Yukuchi holding swords, and I was like, well, they damn well better get some swords, because I didn't clock that as a piece that was missing from the story or from the world. And once I realized that they had been drawn with swords as part of the development of the characters, I'm like, yeah, I actually do think I need an Usagi story to have some sword fighting.
Yeah. But I even really like the instead of giving us an essay at the end, they drew a cool little cartoon where that
was really cute.
Talk to us and
as animal versions of themselves.
Yeah, that was great. It's just a lot of. Here's the thing.
I thought that was really cute, but how annoyed do you think Jared was when they came up? I don't know which Jared or Zach came up with the idea, but one of them came up with the idea. But I still bet Jared was like, "Damn it, that's a good idea, but that's an entire another page for me to draw."
It's true. Great cartooning, though. Really, really wonderful. I think that this was actually approached with so much energy and reverence and enough skill that I think it worked out well against most of the odds.
Am I allowed to ask if you're sticking with it, or is that only allowed in the?
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm
sticking with it.
Yeah. Of course you can. Yeah, that's fine. We got to move on. We're getting too in there. Imperial Guardians #1. Now, last week I had a Nova book. The news had sort of come up before that, as pick of the week. I mean, the news had come out that basically all the Imperial stuff is being scrapped. So I found it very odd that we got the first issue of a new team book, basically, that is a direct spin-off from the Imperial miniseries. Which it's hard for me to remember exactly what happened, but in it, I think Gamora and who's the other one? A Darkhawk. They were off on the hunt to figure something. Just discover the mystery of who was behind all this, and then they got killed. And this is after the fact, and they were brought back by Cosmic Ghost Rider. It doesn't matter. All that stuff happens.
Is my memory correct that Ron's a big Darkhawk guy?
Yes, that's very correct. And what we end up here with is this sort of, the motley team getting put together. They're the Imperial Guardians as opposed to the Guardians of the Galaxy, because they're trying to protect the new peace that has been set up by this. What's funny is that I did not realize at any point that the Empire or whatever it was that was set up by the Inhumans was a good thing. I left Imperial thinking like, oh no, this is the new evil empire. But apparently here it's so good that like Gamora is like, well, we have to protect it. It's
wait, but isn't I think they're protecting the Spartaxian Empire? I thought.
I don't know.
I thought Gamora was doing this because it was helping Peter.
Yes, but also like this seemed to be the impulse that this is a greater good kind of thing, which is weird because I didn't think she'd do that, but. Either way, so we've got Dan Abnett Marcelo Ferreira on pencils and Jay Leaston on inks, Rachel Rosenberg on colors, and Corey Pettit, who was lettering way back in the Abnett Landing days, was doing all those books too, just for continuity's sake. And I, there were a couple of things I didn't love, but for the most part, this is the kind of comic book I would love to read from Marvel. And of course, nobody buys it, and they're gonna shit can them all. I don't know if I assume a second or issues come out. I hope they like finish a 3-issue arc or something. But I thought it was a heck of a lot of fun.
The one storytelling piece that I didn't understand at first and then grew to realize what they were doing was the reality TV talking head to camera. What
he pulled out. I know what you're saying, but he pulled out.
Yep.
It was, I mean, if nothing else, it was a way so that each of the characters narrates some of their own story, like a TV confessional, like The Real World or whatever. I just used probably what is the oldest reference ever, but I've never watched I've never watched a Real Housewife of any kind.
But as soon as I realized that that's exactly what they were doing, I was like, oh, well then, like the reveal at the end of the book, the reveal at the end of this issue is going to be that Frank knows they're doing this and has access to all the tapes and does one of his own. And that's exactly what happened. I was like, all right, well, at least I understand serialized soap opera style storytelling. I mean, I guess if we've always joked that, or not joked, we've always referenced comic books as like soap operas in the serialized nature of storytelling. I guess there is a natural sort of fit with the more modern comics being more like reality TV. I thought based on the cover that we were going to get Hulkling. I was pretty disappointed that we got Amadeus. I'm not the biggest Amadeus fan. I was hoping to see some Hulkling just because Hulkling's a more cosmic character too. Anyway,
I actually don't mind that. I think it's interesting because Amadeus Cho is a newish character that has kind of stuck around. But I'm going to tell you what my problem here was, because I didn't pay attention to the cover or the little lineup at the beginning. I just dive in there and start reading it. So on the first page, you've got Amadeus Cho in the Iron Man or Hulkbuster outfit, and he's all green.
So I was going to bring this up, and go ahead.
And then the next page, he's not green, and so he goes to talk, and I was like, oh, I thought that was War Machine.
So what happens is I bumped on that too, and while we've been talking about this, I've been flipping back and forth between those pages, and in the first panel on the second page, Gamora says suits go into incognito mode, and there's like a little energy line because Carol's costume is also the classic red, blue, and yellow on the first page, and then goes to what I thought was a really cool looking black and white and silver approach. So so they morph their suits in the first panel on the second page, but it's done as almost a throwaway line. And I also, it took me out of the story as well. And I only figured it out while we've been talking.
So that does, it makes sense that that's a thing, but in terms of like introducing the characters, I was like, wait, what happened to? I said, what happened to War Machine? I thought he was on here. I also had to like rewrap my head around Cosmic Ghost Rider, who's really, really stupid, but it's just dumb enough that I'm like, okay, I'll allow. Like it's so like on any level. I was like, wait, so Frank Castle exists in two timelines in one timeline in two places. And like I also like the fact that he's nothing like Frank Castle. There's no Punisher left in this character at all.
It's like if Deadpool created his own version of Ghost Rider. Like it's much more of a Deadpool character than a Frank Castle character.
Yeah. So whatever, and I'm fine with it.
Who cares?
I think that it's this is just from a Andy Lanning. I'm sorry, that's his old partner. They don't like each other. Dan Abnett.
Careful.
Dan, I know. We still don't know what happened there.
Stay
Actually,
on target.
I know somebody who could. I'm gonna ask to figure out what happened with that. Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning used to write all these together, and then they did great comics, and then there was a schism, and they stopped working together, and stopped, like, not like we've dissolved our partnership, like we don't fucking talk about each other as far as I can tell. And I don't know what that's about, but Abnett is a great comic book writer and a novelist in his own right. And, as I read through this, I thought, this is my era. This is my generation. This is the kind of comic book that, that I love. And it's just like, it's a crazy bunch of characters together. Everybody we kind of recognize, but like having Gamora as the team leader, and it was just fun. It was really like the best case scenario of just taking a bunch of characters and putting them together against, you know, a crazy Kree guy who's going to release you know, some sort of giant biological weapon basically that erases what does it do? It makes everything
It would
I
destroy the
forget.
universe. Nulltrons, I think.
Nulltrons. It renders everything inanimate, which is I mean, he'd be pretty good at our job later in the show. I was like, that's a good power. That's a good power. I just like that it was a ton. I don't think this was oversized, but man, you got your money's worth. Super fun. Says there's going to be a second issue.
No, the man can write a comic. And I thought the visions that Darkhawk was seeing, that like somehow his suit is not interfacing with him properly because it's alien tech, and he's having these like I thought the visions he was having were like legitimately creepy. I was like, that's a creepy image.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because he's been around in comics for 40 years now, and they're like, we still don't know what your suit is. And I was like, how? How do you not know what this is by now?
Like he doesn't rate high enough to go just ask Reed Richards. Reed, can you figure this out? No,
Yeah.
get out of here. I'm busy.
I don't have a handle on that character, but because I don't really, it's fine. It just feels like, and he goes so far as to just say, almost like tell you that there's been no development of my character over the years. I'm not a superhero. Nobody cares about me.
I'm not that good at this.
And then I also really like, like having Captain Marvel there is great. Like I love her as a character, and you're taking her out of her element where she's in charge of she just quit the Avengers or whatever she did, but it was really fun, I thought.
Yep.
Well, with that, let's go to one more break, and then we will come right back. I don't know if I can do that.
That's not the right sound cue.
Well, I made up my own. It's totally fine. All right, so we are talking about Hulk. Wait, wrong one. Smash Everything, which I didn't read, which is wrong. I know I blew it early on, and then I keep forgetting to catch up. So you'll just.
So I wasn't caught up on this until the last issue came out, and Connor texted me and said, "Read Hulk Smash Everything #3," and I said, "Okay, yes sir." And I hadn't read the first two, so I read the first two quickly, and then issue #3 is Hulk trapped at the Sagittarius A star black hole, the center of our galaxy, and Hulk escapes.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about this. Yeah, okay.
And I just texted Connor back like, pick of the week. Like I don't know. Like it was one of the greatest issues I've ever read. It was awesome. And Connor and Josh know that I'm reading a popular science book on black holes right now. So my mind has been wrapped around the event horizon as best as any mind can be for a while. So this is the post event horizon Hulk, and he's like he's not just angry. He has grown his strength to the point where he was able to escape a black hole. So the power level of this particular Hulk could and has punched Galactic in the face, and he's going after the Thinker. And it's reached a point where the heroes of the Marvel Universe are having to try to stop Hulk because he's too dangerous in his current form to be around, and they can't calm him down. And so in this issue, Hulk cracks planet Earth in half and releases the outer core. So the inner core of the Earth is a solid ball of iron and nickel, and the outer core is molten. So he punctures the crust and mantle such that the core of the Earth starts shooting out in a giant geyser over Antarctica, and the lava just makes him madder. And so it's gonna get worse from here. And it says next the end of Hulk Smash Everything, and this has been a great series. I encourage everyone to go check it out. It's Ryan North doing giant bombastic action with a good dose of high concept science fiction zaniness, and I'm just loving it.
That sounds pretty good. I'm gonna catch up on this. I have to absolutely catch up on this. So let's see. I got him now. I'm not going to read them during the recording, though. That's not going to be a thing that happens.
I appreciate that. That would make it tough for me to
move. If you could just. Okay. Let's talk about A Quiet Place, Storm Warning #1 from IDW. Story and layouts by vastly underappreciated Phil Hester. Finishes and inks by the why aren't we seeing him more around talent Ryan Kelly. Colors by Lee Lowridge. Look at this lineup on an IDW IP book. My God. And letters by Nathan Whittick, who I've never heard of. But, he did a fine job. why did you read this? Because I read it because of the names I just said more than anything else.
I read it because you had it on your rundown, so I looked it
Oh.
up and saw the names you just
Yeah,
said.
okay.
So yeah, I mean, are you a fan of the Quiet Place movie films?
I saw the first one. It was fine. You know, it was a good kind of movie like that, but I don't really like movies like that so much. But
Julie and I watched the first two, and the second one, no offense to anyone involved, we thought was such a step down from the first one that I think there's been a third one since that I haven't dipped into. But you know, generally, I'm a fan of apocalypse fiction.
Sure.
So you know, there's no more. Don't know if we're ever getting another Bone Temple or 28 Years Later movie. So I guess I'll read this Quiet Place comic.
It doesn't. You know, it's better than the M. Night Shyamalan movie with Mark Wahlberg or the one with Mel Gibson. That's A Quiet Place is better than those things. But so all that said, like I kind of went in with no expectations from a story standpoint. If these names had not been on this book, I would not have checked it out at all. Like I would, the property wouldn't have attracted me just cause. And so, but I still, in a way, because I wasn't super interested in the property, not that there's anything wrong with it, really. I went in with very low or no expectations, and I thought it was actually really, really good. I thought it was really fun. It was like they found a corner of this world and put a story around it that made a lot of sense because Phil Hester is great and underappreciated. Yeah, I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised. Yeah, the art between Phil Hester and Ryan Kelly, I was really happy with all the parts of it.
Yeah, so there's the quick and simple premise is it's an island in the Mississippi, and I haven't like spent a bunch of time there, but I love the idea that we have these little communities based on islands in rivers, not like out at sea. You know, there's some in the Chesapeake as well.
There's some off the coast of Maine. I know.
Yeah,
that
I imagine that clicked with you on some level as well. And the guy who does like kind of the dredging and work around the dams and the all that wants to cut off the island from the mainland because he has seen that the Soundboogans, I don't know what they're actually called. I just call them, that's my term. But the term I got from Harmontown. The Soundboogans can't swim. And so if they can cut
blind xenomorphs.
Blind xenomorphs.
They're blind xenomorphs.
I'm gonna stick with Soundboogans. And so they can't swim. So if he can use his dredging equipment to cut the island off from the mainland, destroy and blow up the bridges, then the town will be safe, and they don't have to do all the Quiet Place sign language stuff to stay, stay afloat, literally. And no one in the town believes him. Everyone's against him, and the town loses. And I was like, okay, like I kind of wish we'd seen a little bit. I mean, yeah, it was really interesting. To me, I'd be interested to hear from Phil Hester. The way the town was arguing amongst itself for how to defend against this threat that none of them could even really believe was as real as it was. Like this had to be COVID inspired, right? This had to be him thinking about what was happening in the world and communities arguing about how best to stay safe, what precautions were really needed, and then how that can go wrong for everyone if not everyone toes the line. I mean, does what's needed.
It's pretty much got to be that. And I'll be honest, I didn't even think of it. I just thought about it in the context of that nobody wants to believe things they don't want to believe anymore, and there's no credibility in anybody's information, and people just want to appear strong to others, and that is enough of a I was going to say strength, but a leadership quality is to appear strong and to be quote unquote decisive. It was a soap opera-y comic book twist to make the lady, is she the mayor?
Yes, I think
like
so.
So the guy at the beginning who's saying we got to cut off the bridges so they can't get here, which seems like a very reasonable plan on his part, and just nobody buys it, and so you have to watch helplessly as people don't listen to you, and everything that you said was going to go wrong does go wrong. And at one point she's like, I got to post something on her socials, and I'm like, okay, so she's like a Marjorie Taylor Greene character, and it just happens to be his sister, and this is what happens. Like families get split up, blah blah blah. And then I
And
mean,
they've got like a what the guy who wants to blow everything up is like the one man fire department, and the guy who's against him is the one man police chief. And then you find out like the guy who wants to blow everything up and cut off the island, he's got a kid with some sort of neurodegenerative muscular dystrophy like condition who can't
right.
control the noises he makes. And so
And that was to me when the comic book went from this is pretty good to I was like, okay, I really appreciate this because, you know, basically the guy is the father to you know, a developmentally disabled. Well, that might not be the right way, but you know, a person like you said. How did you describe it?
Neurodegenerative. It's to me, it
There you
seemed
go.
like it was like a muscular dystrophy.
Yeah,
you know,
but
something like
he makes vocalizations that he can't
or cerebral
necessarily
palsy or something
control,
like that. Yeah.
and his volume, you know, is all over the place, and you know, which is difficult on its own. But like as a parent, you want to protect your kid, and you know that you're used to making the world okay for them and for yourself to be in that, and then this is like the ultimate attack on that kind of thing. Again, if you wanted to continue the metaphor, you know, maybe if this is COVID and this is your immunocompromised kid and you like, I need to, and I know, for example, I'm digging here, but I know, for example, like Phil Hester was very, very sick at one point, and I'm imagining that some part of him is probably like he has to be really like he can't eat like anything he used to eat, like he is immunocompromised to some degree, or so maybe it's part of it, or maybe he knows, whatever. But it really hit home to me, and I thought it was very, very respectful and realistic of that situation, putting into this fantastic world, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's his own sister what did it. And I went right back at the end of it. When they because the first page shows you the now, and then the second page you spend the whole story in, and then when they switch back to now, I went, oh yeah, and I went back to the first page again, and I was like, I'd completely forgotten about that, and it's like the same shot from one to the other. It was great. It was really fun. That's what I think. Let me tell you folks about this show. This is a listener and viewer supported endeavor.
I think you're supposed to go to a different screen for this. I think it's supposed to
know,
be just us, but it's also that's the error in the script that was not caused by us. So
yeah.
It's not even yours to say.
That's true. That's true. Connor should be reading this right now. I think that makes an excellent point. Anyway, so and this is an excellent point. Excellent call out. I need him here because I'm bad at this part when Connor's not here. I'll just tell you that right now. Listen, go to patreon.com/iFanboy. You can directly support the show. You can be part of a great community over at Discord and Facebook. I assume there's still one on Facebook. I don't know. You get to vote on the Patron Pick at any level, but which is you should take advantage of that. It's fun to. And also, I think that if more people got involved with it, much like regular national and local elections, I think we maybe have more interesting results. Anyway, and you can
iFanboy to bring ranked choice voting to the Patron Pick.
Join the monthly patron hangout at $10 or higher. This is when it gets real good. Is you will get an ad-free version of all of our shows. You can get the pick of the week show. This show that you're listening to now a day early on Saturday. You will also get access to the iFanboy after show on Sundays, where we will talk about all the books that didn't make the show's rundown this week. It's not a lot this week, especially for Ryan. There's a discount if you sign up for 1 full year at the time, and you can both give or receive gift memberships. That is patreon.com/iFanboy. I've got several things in place at once, but that now we would go over to ifanboy.threadless.com. That is our merch store where we have 23. That is an absurd number of designs that can be put on t-shirts or clothing or all sorts of things. It's kind of mind-boggling. If you go there, check out, find a design that you like, and then just see all the different things that you can put it on. It's very, very cool. And it's threadless, so you know that that's good stuff. They do good printing. They have, you know, good quality products, things like that. So you can do that. ifanboy.com/support is this one. And there you can, as a PayPal link, if you don't want to deal with any of those things and you'd still like to support the show in any denomination that you would like or amount, you can do that over Patreon. I'm sorry, iFanboy.com/support. And then there is our Amazon shopping link. This is an affiliate over at iFanboy.com/Amazon. If you're going to buy something from Amazon, if you do through there, I'd appreciate it. We'd all appreciate it. And so that's there. Very simple. Doesn't cost you a thing. Helpful to us. Finally, over at where it is appropriate, we will link purchasing to bookshop.org if there's a book that they have that we can put on there. That is an aggregator of local bookstores. So if you were buying a book and you can buy it from any one of a number of the wonderful businesses that make up our community and culture, then bookshop.org is a great place to do that. You will find those links where they are appropriate. So let us go back to comic books, and here we are. Absolute Batman number 18. I put this one on here. A couple of things that are good and a couple of things that are not good. Guest artist on this is Eric Canetti. I don't know the last time that I saw Eric Canetti do a comic book. He's fantastic. He is. I was talking about underrated. Like Canetti's almost, I don't know, forgotten. But there was a time, Jesus, it's probably 15, 20 years ago now, where, you know, he did a book. Nobody looks like this guy. His
Four Eyes with Joe Casey, right?
Yeah. Just energetic and, you know, just this kinetic type of art.
They named him right. Canetti.
Yeah.
Canetti.
There you go.
That'd be his Marvel bullpen name.
I did a Talkspload with him years and years ago. It was like number 6 or something. Like, it was a long time ago, you know. And this is a guy that I just think, you know, could be poised to take over the art world. And I think that we have seen so many artists since that time who are clearly influenced by him. I feel like half the guys that Rick Remender works with, he definitely did a book with Rick Remender. Anyway, so art on that was a real big surprise. I was really happy to see that. This time we have the Poison Ivy villain version, the absolute version of her, which I have not cared about any of these monsters at all. I don't really like it. I think it's a interesting and valid idea to be like, no, when we have bad guys now, they're going to be huge, giant monsters and ugly.
I just think you can't.
But it's been boring.
The whole thing with this version, with the absolute Poison Ivy, what was turned into a monster, is the reason she's a monster is it's not just plant DNA mingling with human DNA anymore. It's like all the animals and all the fungus and all the bacteria and all the everything, all the kingdoms of life. That's why this arc is called the Seventh Kingdom. And I'm like, but it's Poison Ivy. It's just supposed to be plants. Like, you didn't need that. Right. Wasn't broken. Didn't need fixing.
I think that the origin story, the concept that she was just a heart. Why are there green chunks in the heart? I don't know. You know, and this was built around this only part. Like, it's kind of interesting, but at the end of the day, I still kind of don't care. And I think ultimately the problem with this is that I read this every time it comes out, and I very much appreciate the craft of it. I think the artwork has been stellar from pretty much everybody who's been on it. It's great to look at. I don't think that Scott Snyder is doing a bad job. I just feel like I'm not that interested in what he's doing.
I don't like that in this issue they reveal that Jim Gordon knows Bruce is Batman. For a couple of reasons. I mean, the logic is sound. He's like, you're 6'9" and 400 pounds, or and so is Batman. Like, that's, you know,
which is a problem.
Yes,
that's a problem.
Well, that's why you don't want Bat Hulk. I think there is supposed to be a litheness to Batman where he can pass as a smaller person when he's not in the suit. I don't like it. I don't like Jim Gordon knowing that conceptually, just in my Batman stories. But I also felt like one of the fundamental premises, and I know this can't be a forever thing, with the absolute characters is they're supposed to feel more isolated and alone than their main world Earth 2 counterparts. And so
they haven't followed through on that at all in general.
No.
Certainly not Wonder Woman. Certainly not in this book. I don't know, maybe a little, but he's got his mom. Like, I don't know.
Except, and then the other thing about this book, I don't think it was a bad storytelling choice, you know, kill your darlings, but like Bruce kind of makes not want to say the wrong move with the way he deals with Ivy at the very end, but like he does the non-heroic thing and then deletes the voicemail from his mom. And I was just like, oh, well, that just makes me sad. And I know that the character will probably come around to a different understanding of things, but at least at the end of this issue, the feeling I felt was like, oh, I am sadder at the end of this book.
Yeah, but also, why don't you just make this Batman from the beginning? This is actually what he is at the end of this. Sounds more like what they were pitching the whole thing to us as.
Right. This is
and we got to spend a year and a half to have him lose all of his friends who turned into monsters, and his mom's in the court of, I don't know, like like, is he gonna be like a shitty, like, it's one thing I liked about him is that he seemed like sort of an earnest kid in this, and now if he's gonna turn into sort of the worst version of Batman.
Right. Now he is vengeance. Now he is the knight. It's like, okay.
Delete your mom's message.
Delete your mom's message.
No, I mean,
don't do it.
Yeah, it's bad. He doesn't know that his alternate universe counterpart has real parental issues, and he's making the worst possible mistake. And listen, again, all of those things make sense narratively. It doesn't make me feel good.
Exactly. That's
And
how
you
I
said it
felt.
makes you sad. It doesn't. It didn't make me feel good.
Yep.
So there is that. All right, those are the books that we wanted to talk about. But if you are a patron of any stripe, any kind of patron at all, you get to vote on the book that you would like us to read. And that happens every week, and it happened this week. And the book we are going to be talking about is Tigress Island #1 from Image Comics. Story by Well, it was created by both, but the story is by Patrick Kindlon, and the art is by, here we go, it says in capital letters EPHK. I'm going with Effic. Efuck? Effic. Don't know.
Is eFuck, was that one of the alt titles for iFanboy?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it turned out that was taken by another type of business. I was gonna ask if you would have read this, but I'm not allowed to ask that now. Actually,
yeah, not now. We got to get through a few other.
Yeah, no, I know.
All right, so party girls from a multinational group of party girls in Hong Kong get. Well, we decided we weren't allowed to say we're not sure if we're allowed to use the Chinese city term for kidnapping people. So they're in Hong Kong and they get that to a different island off the coast of Hong Kong, and it's like a weird harem place.
Yeah, they're pressed into service. There's a form of a press gang. All right, so various beautiful women are coming to Hong Kong in 1987 with the idea that they will be paid companions, not prostitutes, except for the one who's okay with it. They are an international consortium. There's a Russian one, and then there's an American, Australian one.
Just like that episode of Always Sunny with Dennis and the handsome companion.
These are 5-star women. An Indian Bollywood type lady, and they come
like
to
a blaxploitation lady from America.
Yeah. They come to this nice fancy hotel, and they get read, the script of, here's what you're doing. It's going to be, very upscale. You'll make a lot of money. It'll be great. They go to have dinner, and they wake up in a black storage container.
They all pass out after toasting a drink. So
they wake up in the black storage container and find out that they're being moved by helicopter to what I assume is Tigress Island, where they're met by Betty Page.
BDSM Betty Page, yeah.
BDSM, which is somewhat redundant. And they appear to have been pressed into service in a sort of harem by a very rich man.
Who has populated the island with jaguars. That's clearly a jaguar. That's not a tiger being drawn in that one scene.
Also, jaguar is more. I think it makes
South
more
American?
sense, really. Yeah,
No?
it doesn't just. No.
Jaguars live in South America. Tigers live in Asia.
I see. Okay, you're right. Forget it. Anyway, and they decide that they're not okay with this. They want to fight their way out. That's kind of the issue. That's kind of what happened.
Yep.
I read that. I read ahead of time when I was trying to decide if this was something I wanted to read when I was looking through the list, that there was like an element of like an exploitation kind of thing, like a Russ Meyer kind of sexy, kind of adventure thing. And I thought that's interesting to see how you're going to pull that off. A, in a comic book, and B, in maybe a social climate that is not as friendly to an exploitation type of thing, because you can say all you want, like, oh, it's really sort of ironic, or but at the end of the day, it's big boobs and ladies fighting with each other. And I was curious about that. And I actually thought it was pretty good. For the line they were going. If anything, there was maybe a few too many characters, but even to that extent, I think they did a really good job at differentiating them. There's a couple of blonde ladies where it gets tricky, but everybody does look a little bit different. And there's a device that I was really impressed by the whole way through. I thought the storytelling was pretty good, and the character design was really great. Epic, very unique. Kind of cartoony, kind of
Glossy.
Rob Guillory-ish. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's a thing that they would do to tell people's backstory, and they did it a couple of times where they talked about somebody and they would say something about themselves, and then in the background, in sort of a monochrome thing, you'd see what they're really talking about. And so like the Australian girl is like, I've done some acting, and she's clearly like performing in a porno movie. And then somebody else is like, I was in the Olympics, and they show her like winning a medal, but now she's a drunken mess, or she's just Russian.
I think the Japanese one is doing one of those Japanese game shows where you're like knocking people off of stuff.
Right. But they did that a couple of times, and I thought it was a really efficient, effective, and well done way to sort of do backstory without explaining everything. In a visual sense. I mean, like so much is, you say all the time, show don't tell, and most of the time they tell. And and they did that again with something else with the characters later, which you sort of learn more about their history.
They used it the first time to show their legitimate backstory, and then the second time was what went wrong that caused them to want to sell themselves into service. Even they didn't think they were selling themselves into full-on sex slavery, but they were still willing to go to Hong Kong to be a handsome companion.
But really, I thought that was my biggest takeaway. Other than I thought the design was really good, but just that way of getting across that information was incredibly effective, and used the strength of the comic book form. And it instantly told us everything about both what you see of the character and what the character actually is, without wasting space and with keeping it visually interesting. I could see it falling apart entirely. It's like you did the concept well, you did the introduction well, now, which are really hard, and now comes the harder part, is sort of making a compelling story. Yeah. And to have an ending and to do all those things. You notice that nobody has pupils?
Yeah, they actually mentioned that so they did like an interesting, I don't know how they had a letters column, which is not typical for issue 1, but I guess they released enough of a preview copy that they had some letters from folks. And that one of the questions was only one question: where are the eyeballs? And they said, eyes are the windows to the soul, and we leave ours wide open. Thanks for reading. So
it's a good answer.
It was funny.
I talked a lot. What do you think?
Well, I'm not of an age or era or temperament where I've spent a lot of time with purely exploitation style stories, so I don't have any like fondness or nostalgia for them. And I think the thing where this didn't work for me is like you kind of said, the number of characters and the fact that it felt like every scene, every character had to insert a line of dialogue that was like, how true to type can I be in this moment in response to this thing? And there was one panel where pretty much all of them have to quip in their style in response to a thing. And I was just like, yeah, it's just a little too much for me. Like I get that this is not, a naturalistic setting with characters speaking normally, but just the constant sort of pinging to remind the reader, like, remember, this one's the ditz. Remember, this one's the tough black girl. Remember, this one's the drunk Russian chick. And I was just like, okay, I get it. Like, do they have to say something every time there's a prompt,
I do feel like that is, it has something to do with the exploitation background, the sort of Russ Meyer movie. They're not like brilliant movies or anything like that. So yes, but also sort of in the vein of old comic books where everybody, had to say their name or their thing. It did help you sort of establish who everybody was.
Yes, that's true.
I'm going to sound like a pervert here, but here we go. There's this thing that recurs at the end. So there's one of the women, the other blonde woman.
Are you talking about the upskirt shots?
Yeah. There's these weird upskirt shots that don't happen before in the book, and they only happen on this one character, and it really like stands out. And
the coloring of it is too. It's always like a very stark white panty against the other and more vividly colored things happening.
And she's the one who's different. She's the one who arrived with the man, at the beginning, like she worked for him, and then at the end they sort of call her out as like, you know what's going on here, and they hold the, I don't know, tongs to her throat. Those are barbecue tongs, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and I think and picking up a candle, I believe, but or
Yeah,
no, is that opium? No, is that opium?
No, she just heated it up in the candle, I think.
No. I think that's they're
Oh.
smoking hashish or shisha.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
either way, I was like, why is that happening? Like, it'd be one thing if it was happening all over the place, which is, you know, neither here nor there. But it was just that one character, and it was so blatant that I just thought, what are you trying to tell me? Or is that like a weird upskirt visual clue that she's? I don't know. That's it. That's my. I don't know. I think it was better than it was not. I think it, you know, I think if I had not read like sort of what they were trying to do with it, I'd be like, is this okay? And I'm still not sure if it's okay, honestly. But there we are. Okay, so let's rating it. Let's rate it. What would you give this? What would you give Tigress Island #1?
Yeah, I mean, craft-wise, I know. Craft-wise, it's all there. So they don't think there's anything really technically wrong with it, but it's not really a story for me in the line of my interests and that I'm that excited or titillated by.
Hello.
So I think for me, it's a straight 3. Like, it's not like no marks for style or no knocks for style and craft and the production of it. It's just not a story for me, and I'm not gonna go any higher than that.
I'm gonna go with 3.25. I think it was better than it was bad. I am fairly. I will tell. I'm gonna read the next one because I'm fairly interested in seeing how they maneuver this, because I think it's right. You could fall off the cliff easily, and I just think it's interesting, and it could very quickly, I think, just, I could see the next issue either completely like hooking me or just completely losing me. That's what I think it'll be very definitively one or the other.
You kind of said whether or not you would have read this as the patron pick or not. I would have read it even if it wasn't the patron pick, simply because it's an image #1 on a very light week where I have the pick, and so I cast a wide net to try to find anything that's interesting and different and worth talking about. So I would have read this, but you said you're sticking with it. I'm probably not sticking with it. If you tell me, hey, you should, I'll come back to it. But especially if it's not on a light week, I don't think I'll stick with this.
I think, I would have read it, and the reason would have been that I found the attempt, I found from the what they were trying to do was kind of an interesting, different idea, and it wasn't like werewolf zombie whatever, a witch finds out she's been part of a coven. It's, as far as I can tell, it's not supernatural or anything yet. It's wacky, but so we'll see. That's Tigress Island #1. Your patron pick. Now it is time. That was because if you can vote again for anybody who's a patron can vote for the patron pick. You should do that. But also at the $5 higher level, all patrons will eventually receive a patron power. And Ryan, you are up here to talk about what power Ben Christian.
Okay, we're running a little long, so I somewhat regret my decisions at this point. But my son, Cal Calder, has been coming up with his own superhero team, and he has come up with a power for Ben. And Ben, you are going to be a part of his team called the Wild Fighters. Ben, you are Glowman. Glowman has the power to make anything glow in the dark, and he can also teleport across the house, and he's also really strong and really tough, and he can jump really good, and he can also jump through walls by smashing a hole in them, then jumping through them, and he has an automatic parachute that comes out of his head, and he can even jump over a house because he's the best jumper on the team, and sometimes other team members hold on to him because he goes so tall and so fast, but he always lands on his feet because they can go anywhere, so he never lands on his stomach. He can walk through walls like a ghost, and he also has really sharp teeth. He can make new friends just by making other people glow, because they'll be like, "Hey, thanks, cool glow." And then he asks them if they have good powers themselves. And if they do, he asks them if they want to be on the team. And if they say yes, then there's a new team member. So he can make new team members. If they say no, then he says, okay, but you should say no, but thanks for asking. Oh, and one more, he can make his ears more giant than a house so he can hear really well. He can also make bricks into rhino horns so he can ram stuff like a rhino. Last one, he can punch baddies off of a house, and he has a jetpack because everyone on the Wildfighters has a jetpack, and he can turn into other people and then back into himself. And he looks a little bit like Ant-Man, but has a different powers. Plus, Ant-Man is on a different team. Glowman is also the best fighter in the world. Plus, he has feet that have blasters as backup jetpacks that can also rebuild his jetpack if it gets broken. That is Glowman.
Well, first of all, you've really just completely screwed up the end of the year report. That's a problem.
It's Cal's power. Blame it on Cal.
Yeah. Cal needs a little bit of instruction.
Needs an editor.
Yeah, he's got to bring it in a little bit. It's typical first issue stuff for new writers. Don't get me wrong. You're trying to put too much stuff in there.
But you're the best fighter in the world.
I mean, there's a lot there. I mean, so much that I don't actually remember how it started, but
Glowman, he has the power to make things glow.
Yeah.
But we could cap it there if we need to for the report. I think the name Glowman and the power to make things glow.
Yeah. That does work. You know what? For documentation purposes, that's what we're gonna go with.
And remember, Ben, you can use that. You can make other people glow, and they'll say, "Hey, thanks, cool glow," and then you can invite them to join the team based on that glow.
Yeah. It's very friendly. It's coming from a good place, I think. I am going to tell you right now, I think we're quite far. You got to deal with this, and we're going to have to save this email for another time. We went deep on a lot of books. So you don't get it now. That's all I'm saying. That's what's going on. So we have, let's see, I don't even know how to do this part. Announcements and things like that we talk about this month. You know what? Why don't you talk about this while I try to remember how to put this thing up so I can put a graphic up for it.
Gotcha. I will say that even though we were skipping listener mail right now, not Cal's fault, we were already long. And if you want to send in your own listener mail, it's contact@ifanboy.com, and make sure if you want to in the Media Explode to include Media Explode in the subject line. Right. This month, the Media Explode is coming out March 19th, and the guys will be talking about Star Trek Starfleet Academy Season 1, and the Book Explode is coming out on March 26th. It'll be Darwin's Cook, the Complete Spirit Connoisseur Edition by Darwin Cook, Jeff Loeb, J-Bone, Dave Stewart, Jared K. Fletcher, Comicraft, just a who's who of excellent comic book professionals.
Yeah, that's chock full of skill right there. Almost too much skill. You're still up.
I'm gonna keep going.
You're gonna keep going.
You can find our library of over 1,500 plus shows on ifanboy.com or wherever podcasts are sold. Never miss a show, and find out what the pick of the week is before the show comes out by following us at iFanboy Comics on Instagram and Threads, ifanboy.com on Blue Sky. You can follow us individually at J.A. Flanagan on Instagram and at Ryan Haupt on Instagram. And don't miss former iFanboy writers Jeff Reed's video deep dives into comic book history every Tuesday and Friday across our social channels and on YouTube.
That's right. And you can please, if it's within your ability, if you can, you could leave a review on any of those places where you're possible to leave a review. Your Apple Podcast, your Spotify, wherever it is you do that. If you can do that, even if you're like, but you've been around for 21 years, you keep saying it. Aren't we done with that? I'm not. Validate me, goddammit. You could subscribe to youtube.com/ifanboy. You can watch the video version of this thing that you're listening to. If you're not listening to, you're already there, but that's where it is. You can also find all the other shows we've done, Jeff Reed's videos, and an archive of all of the video shows that iFanboy did from 2007 to 2012. There's a lot of stuff in there, and some of it might actually still be somewhat valuable. Finally, join us on the iFanboy After Show exclusively on Patreon, $10 or higher level. We will share our thoughts on the other books we read this week that didn't make the show rundown. It was a light week. I'm going to warn you right now. That is patreon.com/iFanboy for everybody at the $10 or higher level. So that's what I got. That's what I have for you. Do you have anything else for the people, Ryan?
Nope.
I feel like I just had the instinct to say thank you for joining us, but because you're coming in, it's just, but I don't think it's just like, oh, it's Ryan's here. That's correct. He's right. It doesn't. I don't want to say it doesn't feel special. That's not it, but it feels comfortable. It feels normal. It feels like home. So it's, but I'm glad to see you, and this is always fun.
You're the one wearing the old hoodie, so that's a natural feeling to have. I'm in the new hoodie, so it's for me. It's still got that new hoodie smell.
I do love. I got. All right, so we're long. My favorite hoodie right now. I saw a picture of a punk rock guy who I follow on Instagram, and he was playing pool with somebody, and the other guy had a black Portishead sweatshirt. I've worn it on the show many times before, and I had to like research how to find it because I just liked the design. And it came. I ordered it from England because that's where Portishead is, and it's the best sweatshirt. It just it fits. English clothes for a expanding middle-aged man can be problematic because they have a slimmer cut usually. It just fit perfectly, and it's just the right weight. And I did all this research, like how do I make sure this stays new as long as possible? And so I treat that thing like it's nobody. It only gets washed with other fleece, with very gentle. I use a wool light color. It never gets dried. I will tumble dry it a little at the end sometimes, but it's holding up really well, is my point. So you might want to look into that if you like what you got going on there.
Thanks for listening. I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
See you next week.
It's fantastic.